Welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we will be cutting a wolf cut. With face framing, disconnected layers, and a textured curtain bang, you will learn how to combine slice cutting, invisible layers with disconnection, to create this amazing, medium-length haircut shape. We start with mapping out our haircut. We take a radial section, from ear to ear. The front zone will be split into the side face framing zones, and fringe or bang zone. We map out the apex and crown zone, along the parietal ridge, through to a slightly wider recession parting. We map out our side zones, from the crown, down to the mastoid process. And the nape, and remainder of the crown, is our final zone. This front zone process can be used and incorporated into any medium or long haircut. I will demonstrate a slightly longer option, so you can see how you could use this technique for more than your wolf cuts or shag haircuts. We start the haircut with a small clean diagonal back section on both sides. We take a small diagonal part on both sides of the center parting. This will give us a small triangle section. We will be using a slicing technique to create a soft textured, disheveled, lived-in effect to our fringe. We now decide the length of our fringe. Keep in mind this fringe will be a concave shape, and this first section will be the shortest length in this zone. We take our first section, placing firm tight tension by pulling the section down. We simply open our scissors, placing our blades onto the section, whilst gently slicing through the section, gently directing our scissors down towards the floor. This section will become the guides for both sides of our fringe zone. We continue to take diagonal back sections, directing section 2 back to section 1. Using the guide from section 1, we continue the slicing technique. This will increase the length, from shorter in the center to longer in the sides, creating a concave shape. We continue this process, directing the third section back to section 2. Using section 2's guide, we continue the slicing technique. As you can see, this process creates a soft textured concave shape. We continue this process on both sides. If you want your fringe to sit at the lip area dry, I would cut my first section at the chin. Or if I wanted my fringe to fall to her nose when it's dry, I would cut my guide at the lip area. Always allow extra length when cutting wet hair to ensure the hair doesn't bounce up to an undesired length when dry. I always recommend cutting your fringes wet for precision and to refine and personalize them once dry, so you can personalize and tailor the result perfectly to your client's hair type. We now take another diagonal back section on both sides in our fringe zone. To increase texture and movement in our fringe, we elevate this section 90 degrees, straight back towards you. We use a point cutting technique, using our first section as our guide, blending section 1 into section 2. Elevating this section will shorten the length of section 2, allowing the outline to stay the same as our guide, whilst adding volume and movement into our fringe. If you chose to continue directing every section down to section 1 before cutting, our fringe would fall into a heavy shape with a soft textured, disheveled outline. Now for the final section, in our fringe zone, we take section 2 as our guide. We elevate section 3, 90 degrees straight up. This process will continue to increase more texture and movement into our fringe. This is the shape before personalizing and refining. We now move to the face framing zones. We continue the same process as the fringe zone. We use the last section in the fringe zone as our guide for this zone. We continue the slicing technique with low or no elevation. This is the fringe and face framing you can incorporate into any mid-length or long haircut. I am now going to reduce the length and continue to cut our wolf cut tutorial. We continue the slicing technique. Instead of lowering the guide, we raise every new section back up to the guide. This reduces and slows the increase of length, creating a more stationary, disconnected face framing shape. We take our final diagonal back section in this zone. We use our previous section as our guide for this section. We continue to place our face framing using the slicing technique, until we reach our desired length. We now complete the same process on the opposite side. Using low or no elevation creates heavy weight, which helps to create stronger face framing. We check our balance before moving to the next zone. We now move to the side zones. We use the longest length from the face framing zone and continue to slice cut. This time we don't elevate our section up. We increase the length and create a disconnection by elevating slightly forward. This helps to increase the length. We continue to increase the length with each section. This is our fringe, face framing, and side zones complete. The weight in these zones, being cut with low or no elevation, will create a heavy frame around the haircut, creating edge and a little drama to our wolf cut shape. We now section these zones out of our way before moving to the top, crown and apex zones. We now cut our disconnected, invisible layers throughout this top zone. We take our guide from the last section in our fringe zone. In this zone, we have a moving guide directing every new section back to the previous section, working our way back to the crown area. We elevate every section 90 degrees straight up to the roof. We now elevate up to our guide. Once we reach our guide, we elevate 1 finger's width over the guide before cutting a horizontal line. This process creates seamless invisible layers, adding maximum texture and movement to our shape. This is a great technique to incorporate into any wolf cut, shag or shake haircut, where you want to create maximum movement and texture. We now take section 2, directing section 2 to section 1, continuing to elevate 1 finger's width over section 1's guide. Section 2 now becomes our guide for section 3. We continue to elevate over our previous guides with every new section throughout this top zone. Once we reach the top of the crown, we over-direct every new section in the back area up to this stationary guide. We change our distribution, as the head shape will naturally increase the length, working down the head shape. We now move to the back zone. In this zone we work visually, using the slice cutting technique. You could leave this section longer and disconnected if you wanted a more exaggerated look to your haircut. I have chosen to follow the longest length from the side zones as my visual guide, creating a mid-length wolf cut shape. We now drop the crown zone and blend this through the nape section with more visual slice cutting. We now wrap dry the hair into natural fall, preparing the haircut for personalizing and refining. We now personalize the haircut. I have chosen to create maximum texture using a deep slicing and texturizing technique. I simply remove the bulk from each section by elevating the hair and visually texturizing with the blades open with a very gentle closing action. This technique creates mass texture. I also soften the perimeter by point cutting straight into the ends. If you like this haircut, you should check out my playlist, Wolf Cuts, Shag Haircuts, and Shake Haircut Tutorials. Link above, and in the description below. I continue to use a deep point cutting technique to refine the line or perimeter of this haircut, adding to more texture and movement. Don't be afraid to put your stamp on your work. If you learned something new, or if you have any feedback, let me know in the comments below. I always appreciate hearing back from you. And if you know someone who may benefit from this tutorial, feel free to share it with them. And don't forget to show me some love by hitting the like and subscribe icons. This is an advanced, professional wolf cut that you can introduce to your clients. Let me know if you try this haircut. And I hope you love it as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. Happy cutting YouTube fam. See you next week with a new tutorial.